Donald Trump has denied allegations of election interference and instead accused his rival President Joe Biden of the same thing. The former president revealed he'll likely face a third criminal indictment, this time over his conduct during the January 6 riot at the Capitol.
Donald Trump's popularity has increased steadily in the polls, and he's triumphantly returned to Fox News. But there are more serious charges looming. Before he landed in Iowa, the former president revealed he's likely facing a historic third indictment, this time around over his conduct leaving office. A grand jury in Washington, D.C. has convened to investigate potential charges. Jurors reportedly have deliberated charges of election interference around his conduct during the January 6 riot at the Capitol. Donald Trump's defense is to go on the attack.
It bothers you. I got the letter on Sunday night. Think of it. I don't think they've ever sent a letter on Sunday night. And they're in a rush because they want to interfere. It's interference with the election. It's election interference. Never been done like this in the history of our country.
On the same day, Donald Trump's lawyers were in court in Florida preparing for his trial over alleged mishandling of confidential documents. They're fighting for a delay to the trial until after the election, the judge indicating a likely trial for early next year. Every legal challenge has seen Donald Trump's support rise in the polls among Republican voters, and they're donating. The latest campaign filings show Donald Trump has raised the most money of any Republican presidential candidate. And with an average donation of $34.20, a lot of that is from grassroots support. Like the Iowans who turned out for his town hall on Fox News and who will decide the first competition in the Republican primaries.
I gave the farmers $28 billion from China.
There's still the potential for a fourth indictment against Donald Trump, with a grand jury in Georgia reportedly looking into election interference there as well, setting up the very real prospect of the Republican nominee for President of the United States bouncing between criminal trials and the campaign trail.
Will you encourage your voters, based on the system we have, to go along with the system of early voting and voting by mail? Because
I will.
I think if you don't, it's a big mistake.
No. I will, but those ballots get lost also, Sean. You know, they send them in and all of a sudden they're gone. Those ballots get lost also. The answer is I will because you would like it.
Annalise Nielsen, Sky News, Washington, D.C.
For more on this, let's bring in Stephen Loosley, Senior Fellow at the United States Studies Centre. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Can I start by asking you about the environment of this town hall? The crowd was cheering and booing at will. It was like a crowd at a wrestling or sporting event.
That's a very perceptive comment. And a friend of mine says that the best way to understand Donald Trump and his ability to cut through all the static that's out there about American politics is to remember that he was once a New York City wrestling promoter. And he knows how to get to the people who are going to take the tickets. So he's had another good crowd in Iowa being important in the Republican presidential primary calendar, of course. But it's always useful to note that the faithful turn out when their candidate appears to be in trouble. And that's not an ideological comment. It applies both on the left and on the right. I can remember, for example, the mass crowds for Gough Whitlam in 1975, but the Whitlam government was annihilated at the polls. So you do have the faithful turnout. They will donate, but they're not necessarily representative of American political opinion as a whole. It's far more representative of the base of the Republican Party, of the Trump and Z element of the Republicans.
Well, Trump says he isn't even bothered by the indictments he faces. What do you make of that?
It's very bold. It's very like Donald Trump to lash out at people he sees as his accusers or persecutors. He's always sought martyrdom at the hands of the deep state. And this letter from Jack Smith, the special prosecutor from the Department of Justice on January 6, just plays into his hands. There's no question that there's a serious indictment in respect of the Mar-a-Lago documents, and there's a serious indictment coming in respect of January 6th. That's before we get to Atlanta and the alleged interference by then President Trump in the counting of the ballots in Georgia. And of course, there are other issues like fake electors in Arizona and Michigan. Donald Trump is in a world of pain, almost all of it self-inflicted. Do
you think he's a shoo-in for the Republican nomination?
Unquestionably the favourite, because his base is very loyal. Look, I remember being in Des Moines in early 2020 during the Democratic caucuses, and Donald Trump coming to town was almost a religious and cultural experience. I remember the placards out around the arena where he addressed a mass rally, and a lot of them were denunciations of Hollywood and the media more than related to politics. The Republican base really loads the American elite as they see them. That's Washington, both sides of the aisle in the Congress, media, business, Hollywood, entertainment, and the like. So it's almost a cultural and religious experience for some people who go to these Trump rallies, and that will continue. The DeSantis campaign, by the way, is failing, and that's the other thing that makes Donald Trump the front runner again. Just briefly, do you see any prospect then of him becoming president again? You can never rule that out, and of course it is possible under the American Constitution to run for office, run for the presidency from prison. It's been done. Eugene V. Debs was a Socialist Party candidate in 1920. Good grief. He polled 1 million votes, and he ran out of the Atlanta penitentiary as prisoner 9653. So that is possible. It's certainly possible for Donald Trump to win again, though the more these indictments pile up, I think the less likely that becomes. Stephen Loosley, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Pleasure. All the best.